Hey, good evening, everybody. This is Andrew Alvarez, and I'm the Latino conservative. Hey, if you're just joining me on live, great. Thank you. Appreciate that. I am actually coming to y'all this week from Arkansas. That's right. I'm somewhere north of Little Rock. I tried to do the live thing last week, and I do apologize. It didn't come out all that great. I couldn't figure it out quite right, but I think I've got it all figured out. See, I've got an old school Apple Mac and MacBook Pro, 2012-ish. I think it's time for a new one. What do you think? So let's get started. Just so you know, if you're joining me here on YouTube, I've got my camera here for YouTube. I've got my phone right here for Clapper. I do have another live platform that I am going to get on here regularly pretty soon. But let's talk about what day it is. It is Monday. Happy Monday, everybody. If you're ready to get back to work, great. Awesome. Good job. Glad everybody can get back to work. So let's talk about what's going on in the news right now. Because, I love me some news. There's an Ohio lawmaker. Vax a Million Lotto is a gross misuse of taxpayer dollars. So an Ohio Republican lawmaker is trying through legislation to stop Ohio's Vax a Million Lotto, which will divide $5 million between 5 Buckeye State residents who have gotten their COVID-19 shots. So what's going on in Ohio is people in Ohio were entered into a lottery if they got vaccinated. Okay, I can see some people being incentivized for the vaccine. I see that. I get that. But at whose expense? You see, once you start giving money to people who get vaccine, now you got people wanting to expect that. But where does that money come from? Can y'all tell me? Where does that money come from? It's got to come from somewhere. And where it's going to come from is from the taxpayers. That's right. It's going to come from the taxpayers. Not every taxpayer agrees with it. Now, here's the thing. I know not everybody's going to agree with everything every time. I understand that 100%. I understand that you're going to get people that are opposed to it just because it is an ideological thought that a Democratic person has had. I understand that. I get that. I believe that some people just opposed to basically because of party affiliation. I get that. I understand that. So, but who's going to pay for that? Taxpayers there. You got the Ohio lawmaker that is trying to legislate against that. The deadline for registration ended on Sunday, and the first of 5 drawings being held on Wednesday. But Republican Jenna Powell told CNN's Newsday that there is no proof that the gimmick designed by GOP Governor Mike DeWine to encourage people to get their shots has had much effect on getting people to roll up their sleeves. I'm vaccinated. I know quite a few people that are vaccinated. In fact, as soon as Governor Greg Abbott said, we are opening Texas and we are lifting the mask mandate, I said, here I go, my turn. In fact, I think I might have been wearing this shirt. But money motivates people for the good reasons. I'm in sales. I am money motivated. This case, you got to look at the fairness of it now. Are we just motivating just for the coronavirus shot? But what about the flu shot? The flu shot that's more deadlier than, said that incorrect, the flu that is deadlier than the coronavirus. Why aren't we getting incentivized for that? What about the measles, mumps, and rubella, when you're a little kid? Chickenpox vaccine, smallpox vaccine, polio, all those other vaccines that you get. What about those? Or is it just this one case, one epidemic, quote unquote, big air quotes, if you're listening to this later on, because I will upload this to an Apple Podcast and Google Podcast, Spotify. But if you're listening to this, I'm doing the big air quotes. What about those pandemics? I'm all about fairness. So what about those pandemics? What are we going to do for those? How are we going to incentivize that? And who is going to pay for that? Me? You? More? So it's just something to keep an eye out, to keep your thoughts out. Next topic. And part of me, while I get a drink of water, they give me bags of water here when I check into a hotel. That's all this noise you hear, and it's me opening up the bag. Yeah, I do travel for work. For those of y'all who might just be joining me, I've got one viewer right now. Hey, how you doing? But essentially, we're all trying to incentivize something that we should be doing anyway. I'm pro-vaccine. I am not pro-mandate. Just get that clear. Just like I like masks. I think some of them are cool nowadays, but I'm not pro anything that has to mandate them. In fact, Governor Abbott, not only did he lift the mandate a couple months ago in a move that Joe Biden called Neanderthalish, he also just signed an executive order, a Texas executive order, stating that no government entity, no government body is allowed to make a mask mandate. He is respecting the rights of businesses, which is smart. I think that's what he should do. He's respecting the rights of businesses. Businesses can still have a mask mandate for their own specific business, but a government body can't. Government and school can't. I still don't see why businesses are having the mask mandate. They say follow the science, right? Follow the science. Absolutely. Everybody's going to say go and follow the science. Let's see. So I'm looking at double platforms here, just so you know. I've got y'all here and I've got y'all here. But everybody says follow the science. Texas is following the science. We have had days with 0 coronavirus deaths. We've had the lowest number of cases on record since we started keeping track of it, with no mask mandates. So other states are starting to follow suit. I'm in Arkansas right now. Nobody's wearing a mask here. Nobody at all. Go to the store, Walmart. No, everybody's walking. In fact, their state legislator made it illegal for their governor here to sign a mask mandate. Go figure that. So I'm guessing their state legislator here is a bit on the red side as opposed to the governor on the blue side. I don't know who they are. I'm not from Arkansas. I don't claim to know every state's policies and whatnot, but it just goes to show you that a state legislative body can, overrun a governor. It's kind of like the U.S. federal government. You've got your U.S. representatives and U.S. senators. Then you've got your president. The senators and the representatives can overrule a president. But the way it's designed is, the president's there to make fast decisions, which Joe Biden isn't doing anything fast these days. But the legislative body, they're coupled with the Supreme Court, is there to make the slow choices, the ones that make either what money make that matter, basically, laws and such. I'm not saying they're doing a good job right now, because I personally believe that they're not. They're crapping out right now. I think the saving grace in our legislative body is the Senate, because you've got a 50-50 split pretty much down the line, and I think that there's enough working together, enough bipartisanship in the Senate that they can kind of equal out what's going on in the U.S. House of Representatives. Plus, there's a filibuster and whatnot, which Joe Biden has used quite a few times. Don't forget about that. If he gripes and complains about the filibuster, he used it. So, more on Governor Abbott. But before we get into Governor Abbott, I'd just like to take a minute to kind of talk about how I try to keep this podcast running. This started as a podcast. I'm going to try, quote unquote, I'm going to try to do this live on Mondays. It seems like this is the best chance that I have, because I do have a full-time job. Not saying any of y'all don't, but I do have a full-time job, and it keeps me pretty busy at night and pretty busy during the days as well. I just got finished with about a 3-week project that took me 4 weeks to do because of preparation and such. That's why I haven't been on as much. And I figured, hey, you know what? Mondays I travel on Mondays. I get out of the dealership pretty early as opposed to most other days. So I might start doing this 8 o'clock wherever I am. Next week I'll be in El Paso. So speaking of El Paso, hey, Beto O'Rourke, if you're listening to this, hey, I'd like to hook up with you. No crazy, me badgering you for whatever, but I'd like to get in touch with you. Maybe we can hook up, connect, talk about people. But back to what I was saying, a squirrel moment there. How I keep this, or at least try to keep this, quote unquote, funded, because there's a couple two ways. And one, this little software that I've just started using, I figured out that I can do that too through this software. But I'll put links into the description on how you can support me either through this OBS software or through Anchor. Anchor, I'll put the link in there, but Anchor is a way that you can support me on a monthly basis with as little as 99 cents per month. What you can also do is sign up for my affiliate program. I use Cash App. I use Cash App almost on the weekly, at least a couple times a week. What I use Cash App for is a few things. I send money back and forth to my family, my friends, if they need money, or they can do the same with me if I need a little cash. Also, with stock markets going like crazy, are you part of that? Are you part of that? Did you get your little piece of that? I got me a little piece of that GameStop and that AMC when they skyrocketed. I got out, made me a little extra cash, and I was able to use that to transfer to some of my family because they needed help. If you go to my website, thelatinoconservative.com/Cash App, you will see where you can go and download Cash App if you are not using it. If you are using it right now, you can still help me out with Cash App. $Latino Conservative. Send me a few bucks. I really appreciate that. Again, www.thelatinoconservative.com/Cash App or $Latino Conservative. So back to Governor Greg Abbott. He signed a bill, an executive order recently. Actually, I think this was just a straight piece of legislation. It's called the Heartbeat Bill, which bans abortion. Now, I know all the pro-lifers are out there are cheering this, and the pro-choice people are booing this. I know. So where do I stand on that? I believe life is sacred. I believe the Bible tells us, and the Bible does tell us, that life began when the baby is still in the womb. Both John the Baptist mentioned it, and so does Samson. Samson mentions that while he was still in his mother's room, he was a Nazarite even then. John the Baptist says that, or the book says that he jumped with joy when he heard Mary's voice, and he was still in the womb. So I believe that life starts when you're in the womb. And I hate that we have to have a scientific definition of it. Why can't we just say, hey, once you're pregnant, you've got a life in you? Because that's what I think. So while I believe this is a good piece of legislation to save lives, babies' lives matters too. I'm saying it. Babies' lives matters. No, I didn't mean to put that acronym with something else, but babies matter. Babies have the rights. Americans have rights. If you're a baby, you're an American. So you have the right to life and liberty just as much as any adult does. Stop me when I lie. Now, as far as legislation goes, my viewpoint on that is kind of iffy and kind of weird. Some of y'all may know that I plan on running for Congress. It's going to be soon, going to be eventually. I'm going to run for local office first, something local. But when I get to Congress, I have vowed that I will not author or support legislation that would totally do away with abortion. I won't. It's kind of weird, right? Yeah, I know it's kind of weird. I'm not pro-choice, though. I'm not. What I am, though, is pro-freedom. Some people say this is the libertarian side of me. What I mean by that is I don't think salvation. I don't think salvation should be legislated. If you want to go and get an abortion, go get an abortion. That is between you and your maker, God. It's not my way to do that. There was a group of people back in the biblical days called the Pharisees and the Sadducees, kind of like the Senate and House of Representatives, that tried to make and enforce so many laws that you had no choice but to follow them. If you didn't follow them, you were punished. You were put in jail. You were executed, stoned, whatever. But you were basically forced into salvation, and that's not how it works. Salvation is a gift given freely. All you got to do is receive it freely, not by force. It's kind of my little 2 cents on that. So what I am going to do now, I'm going to do something new. One thing about this software is that I have not figured out how to share my screen yet, but I will. What I'm going to go do now is go to Twitter just to pull up a couple tweets. I'm going to start scrolling. Let's see what I find first. Tara Palmieri. Capitol Police and FBI investigating suspicious package sent to Rand Paul's home containing white powder. It's kind of scary. You know, what comes in white powder? You know, other than the drug? Anthrax, right? I believe anthrax comes in a white powder form. So what's going on about that? What's going to happen? Or is it just going to be one tweet, one headline about that? About, you know, some potential attempted assassination on Rand Paul? Is it going to be just one tweet? Is that it? I seem to remember a GOP person, aka Donald Trump, that was basically persecuted for something that happened on January 6th. I'm not going to say the name of it was. In fact, just me giving the date probably fires off some sort of algorithm that, I don't know, might get me banned again from some site. But on January 6th, all of that stuff happened. Donald Trump asked for it to be peaceful. He did not ask for it to be violence. Meanwhile, you've got representatives like Maxine Waters specifically calling for violence. You've got Ilhan Omar calling for violence. You've got tons of people on the left side, the radical left, calling for violence. But when something happens on the right side or to somebody on the right, let's wash our hands of it. That didn't really happen. Oh, it was a mistake. Sad day. It was a mistake. I mean, what happened with the equality that you claim to have? You know, you claim to seek equality, but where is it? It's just like Nancy Pelosi. One of the I'm not even going to describe her because I'm not going to say something foul like that. So, but you got Nancy Pelosi, who fined 9 representatives for not wearing their mask. She did this while she wasn't wearing a mask herself. So that kind of, who's the boss of these people? Who hired these people? I hired somebody. Troy Nehls. I hired Troy Nehls when I hit that button that said Troy Nehls, not Shri, whatever his last name is. When Troy Nehls was hired, I had a part of that. That means I'm a part of his boss. Nancy Pelosi is the Speaker of the House. She was like the representatives of representatives. Does she have the authority? Does she really have the authority to find these people? And if she does find these people, and if she does have that authority, she being the same person, the same level of authority as them, or position, I should say, should get fined too. If not, she's a hypocrite, and these other people should stand up against her. She needs to be censored herself. All of these lies that she gives, she should be censored herself. Pisses me off how somebody can go in and say, well, I just don't like what you're doing, so I'm going to fine you. No, you don't have the authority to do that. I hired him, not you. In fact, I would love to see the actual count of your ballots. Oh, wait, that's right. You're in California. You don't have a real primary there. You have a primary that puts a Democrat versus a Democrat. There's no chance for a Republican to ever win because of how the state has lined up their elections. There's not. However, what you are seeing right now is Texas, who magically got 2 more seats in the House of Representatives, while California lost 2 seats because of the mass exodus from California to Texas. And it's not just the liberals coming over from California to Texas. I know plenty of people who wanted to come move to Texas, that wanted to come to Texas because of how we are. Not because of how California is, but because of how free Texas is. So let's see what else is on here. Twitter. Republican leadership seems to believe that we should sweep the big lie and January 6th under the rug. This was today. Come on, Chuck Schumer. You're still talking about this crap 6, 7, 8 months later down the road? Come on, dude. What else you got? Is that all you have? Is Trump that much of a thorn in your side that you still want to talk about Donald Trump? Is he still that much of an adversary that you want to talk about him still? What is it? Do you have nothing else to talk about? How about you talk about the thousands, hundreds of thousands of people coming over through the border? How about that? They're coming to your state, if I'm not mistaken, right? How about we talk about the kids, the little kids that are being grossly separated from their parents under your watch and Joe Biden's watch? These are little kids. The whole separating kids from their parents happened first when people were claiming Donald Trump was separating kids from parents. They were still in the same facility. You've got buses and planes landing in Tennessee right now with kids. And they're doing it under the cover of darkness. 1 o'clock in the morning, 2, 3 o'clock in the morning. They're doing this crap and separating the kids by thousands of miles. Not by hundreds of feet. Oh, but Donald Trump is the bad guy. He caused this insurrection that happened on the 6th. He caused it even though he called for peaceful protest. The things that were supposed to happen last summer, peaceful protest, that weren't so peaceful with burning cars and buildings and such. Yeah, I was in Seattle last week and I got to see a little bit of it. It's kind of scary. It's kind of scary that we as human beings can do that. Speaking of the border, our president hasn't visited the border yet. Our vice president hasn't visited the border yet. Think about that. Now, Joe Biden has said Kamala Harris is heading that up. And you know what? She very well may be covering that up. Not covering it. Well, yeah, she's covering it up, but heading that up. So when I was a boss, I'm still a boss in a way, but when I was a boss, a sales manager, director of business development, whatever you want to call me, in whatever role I partook in, I was part of, whatever role I was in, I had another boss. My boss told me to get my reps to do this. They needed my team to do this. But at the end of the day, if I didn't get that covered, his boss would come to him and ask why he didn't get it done. So what I'm saying is the boss, who would be my boss, Joe Biden, the president, his boss is us. Why isn't he getting the job that we hired him to do? We hired him to protect this country, protect our borders. And those are the 2 main things. Make sure that we are free. Protect our country and protect our borders. Everything else comes under that. He's not doing a good job. I'm on TikTok a lot, and I hear a lot of people saying, oh, we messed up. We messed up. There's that one sound on there, that we messed up sound. They're right. People are starting to realize now that Joe Biden ain't it. Just a bunch of lies. So what happens? Let's say something happens and he gets impeached, goes to the trial, and he's removed. Guess who's next? Kamala Harris. She ain't doing crap. Do you really want a president in office that caused the highest rate of minority jails in California when she was in there? Do you really want that? Okay, so let's say that she does a crappy job. She does something that causes her to be left out of office. Then we got Nancy Pelosi, Speaker of the House next. Yep, see where I'm going there? Now, there'd eventually have to be a special election, but who do you got? I think right now, the best candidates on the GOP side that we have would be Ted Cruz. And honestly, hear me out on this one. I really think, and I hope this flags the algorithm, I really think Candace Owens would be a phenomenal president. First black woman president. First woman president. I think she would be phenomenal because she looks at things logically. She's no BS. She's young enough to get the job done. She's energetic enough. So if Candace Owens were to run for president, I'd vote for her. Sorry, Ted Cruz, I love you. But if she's running against you, I'm voting for Candace. Will Donald Trump be president again? I don't know. I don't think so. I know he's making a lot of noise. He's doing something out there. In fact, he just came out with on Dan Bongino's show. Dan Bongino announced that he's going to be this first interview. You know, Dan Bongino is the guy that just recently took over Rush Limbaugh's spot. You know, he didn't replace him. Can't ever replace Rush Limbaugh. But he took his spot on air. So Donald Trump is making some noise. I understand that. I get that. But I don't think he'll ever be president again. I could be wrong. I do think he's going to come up with his platform, his social media platform. He's going to make some more noise there. He's going to get his word out finally, which I think he has every right to do that. You know, because you got these companies like Twitter and Facebook and Google that censor people. You know this. I know this. I've been censored. TikTok censored me. But what's really going to happen? He's going to get his word out. People are going to believe him. Some people aren't. His app, if he creates an app, it's going to get taken off of Google and Apple Store, just like Parler was. Just a bunch of stuff. Big tech isn't going to let him do it. They're not. He's going to hire lawyers. The only way they can do that is if they reform Section 230. Section 230 gives social media and big tech companies the options to censor who they want in the name of whatever they want to call it. I don't know it off the top of my head. Now, here's the thing about this. Another thing, I'm going to touch on this a little bit. Big tech. I hear a lot of people saying they are a private company. They can do what they want. But you're wrong. They are not a private company. In fact, right before I came on here, I proved it. I bought a little bit of Google. I bought a little bit of Facebook. And I bought a little bit of Twitter. Because they are public offerings. Each one of those has gone through the IPO stages of launching their business. What an IPO stands for is initial public offering. So they are publicly owned. So that's one thing. Now think about that. You got that. You got publicly owned companies out there that receive tax benefits. Tax benefits authorized by Congress, Senate, federally funded grants and whatnot. You got these companies publicly owned, get federal money, controlled by Congress or controlling Congress, however you want to look at it. They're not privately owned companies anymore. So maybe it's just my train of thought, but a company that is owned by the public and gets federal money or funded by the public, I should say, shouldn't they be held to the Constitution as well? First Amendment, Second Amendment, Third, Fourth, all those. Shouldn't they be held to those as well? I mean, just because Twitter says so doesn't make it so. Just because Facebook says so doesn't make it so. So I digress. But memes. Let's talk about memes. Last topic, then we will call it a night. Let's talk about memes. I saw a meme, and I don't know the exact word for it, exact verbiage, but it's along the lines of, if you are concerned about people about not being able to hire people because they make too much on unemployment, then you are not paying them enough, something like that. The thought process behind that was the minimum wage is too low. The minimum wage is what, $7.25 nowadays, right? It's been like that for years. Been like that for a long time. I remember actually when it was 5 and change. I remember that. I've been working since 1996. I got my first job in 1996. I have never once made minimum wage. Or I should say, never once had a minimum wage job. There's 2 months in the car business when I made minimum wage. I made minimum wage when I didn't sell enough cars to cover my salary, to cover my commission. I had a couple bad months. It happens to car people. I mean, come on. But that's the only time I made minimum wage. 2 months in my entire working career since 1996. I think the least I have made was $10 an hour. And I worked my ass off for that. I was working that when I was in high school. I would get out of high school. I would go run to my job, work my 4 hours because that's all I was allowed to work back then. 4 hours, make my $10 per hour, go home. And mind you, I would end the night at about 10 o'clock, 10, 11 o'clock is whenever I ended my night. I would go home, go to bed, wake up so I can be at church before school. Now, mind you, I was in marching band. We practiced before school, so I was at church at 6 o'clock. Finished by 6:30, went to high school, strapped on my drums, started playing my drums, went to work after school. What I didn't do, didn't finish college. I went to college for a few years. I was going to go to UT on a music scholarship. But my mom and dad needed some financial help. So that was the end of my college career. And I went to work, started working, go figure. Started working full-time, career job. First full-time job, I was selling vacuums door to door, Kirby. Made it decent. Had a pretty good paycheck out of that. So one vacuum, it made like $300, which is already higher than minimum wage. And I sold about a vacuum a day. So it made more than minimum wage then. But I quit that job because I wanted to go back and try to get to teaching music and drum lines. My dream job was teaching music. So I did that for about 4 years. Drumline and percussion ensemble did that. Wasn't minimum wage, was not. Each and every job I had after that progressively got up. I worked for the city of Victoria for a while, got into the call center industry, and then it just and I make it what I make now. Never freaking once made minimum wage. Why can't y'all? Minimum wage is not designed to be life sustaining. It's not. It's designed to keep people from paying you $4 an hour to go lay concrete. That's what it's designed to do. I didn't finish high school. Well, I finished high school. I didn't finish college. I had a career. I worked at it. And when my boss told me to do something, you know what? I did it. I didn't complain. I got the job done no matter what it took. And then what I did after that, each and every job I've had that was a career, I invested in myself. Outside of work, that thing that people do when they're off, I didn't go and waste it away playing games. I played games, don't get me wrong. I played games, had my few beers every now and then, but I invested in myself. I taught myself my craft outside of work. Because work, I understood, could only teach me so much. There's only so much you can learn in an 8-hour day when you first start a job. Only so much. What about that other part? To become an expert in something, you've got to spend 10,000 hours doing that something, whatever that something is. 10,000 hours. That is more than 3 years back to back, 10 hours days, no days off. The industry I'm in right now, I'm an expert. I've been called, I have been requested by people that I interact with my full-time job to go leave my job and go work for them multiple times. but I like my job. And I get to travel. But never once have I made minimum wage. This whole minimum wage debacle, debate, whatever you want to call it, it's just that, a debacle and a debate. It's the Democrats trying to get you to get to their side by offering you more money, trying to print out more money. And then what's going to happen is eventually we're going to run out of paper, and then they're going to go fully digital, which they're already trying to do right now with this crash that they had recently with the cryptocurrency. Guess what? Magically, a couple days later, they're talking about a digital US dollar. Hey guys, I've got a lot more I could talk about, but I'm over 30 minutes now. I like to keep these at 30 minutes. Keep the one viewer I had earlier entertained. I'm going to have this posted later on, and I'm going to put this on my Anchor, which means that you'll also find it on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, and all those other channels. Be sure to hook me up, smash that like, subscribe.